Hey Jesse, thanks for coming on the Social Dream Machine. This whole entire show is just basically dedicated to your first dollar online. So for your journey, could you kind of opened up how you made your first dollar? I believe you said it was on Medium.
Exactly. Yeah. So July 2020, and I quit my job. I was working at a tech unicorn in Amsterdam. It was in the midst of the global lockdown. I was like, okay, this is not my path. Figured out you could make money online by writing articles on Medium, and I was already always an avid writer. But the moment I knew about this monetization part, I got hooked. And I kid you not, like the moment I saw this first $73 coming into my account, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a millionaire with writing. And of course, it didn't go that straightforward. But yeah, that's how it first started. And then after that, I started selling products on Gumroad. This is late 2020. And to me, this opened up this whole world of like the creator economy, as people like to refer to, as in like, okay, I can sell my expertise or I can sell my knowledge to other people. And it's basically like templates or products or courses or anything. I tried everything under the sun so far, but that's how it started back in 2020.
Mm. And introduce your full name as well, because I don't want to butcher how you say your name. And then as well, tell me about like one of the first products you made at Gumroad. Like, what was that experience like? Was it like a couple bucks, or how expensive was it, and how long did it take you to create? And like, what was it?
Yeah. So my full name is Jessie Van Breugel. Quite hard to pronounce for you Americans and most other internationals. That's why early on LinkedIn I added a purple dot to my name, because then I was like, hey, just go to Jessie and follow the purple dot. Until date, it's still something that sticks. So that's the name. In terms of creating the first product on Gumroad, I actually just productized what I was using. So the first one was like a Notion. I think it was called the content management system. Very
Mm.
bare, basic, but just basically like a template that I use to manage my Medium content from like
Mm.
okay, ideation to draft to writing to review to publishing stage, kind of like the stages of the writing process. I just put up Gumroad as like a free product, and then I enabled the option of like pay whatever you want.
Mm.
And so the moment this is November 2020, I woke up to a message that someone had paid, like a stranger from the internet had paid for my product, and I was like,
Wow, that's cool.
damn, that's cool, because I was like, okay, it's just like this unlock, and of
Right.
course, it's not about the numerical like number of money. It was like, okay,
It's possible.
so yeah, the creation process, as you ask, it was kind of like just like selling your sawdust. I don't know if you're familiar with that like terminology. It's kind of like I was using it myself, and I was like, okay, if it's useful for me, I assume it's like a hypothesis that it's useful for other people. So then just let's put it online and see how it goes. And that's, I would say, that got me into like creating digital products. So till date, whenever I sell or create a digital product, it's always stuff that I either use myself or that I built for my clients and they liked it.
How do you find market fit for the digital product, and like how long do you know like how much to spend on each one? I'm assuming it's like a band that has like a record that, I don't know, their first record probably comes out really easy, and maybe some of the other ones are harder to make. I'm not quite sure. I've never made one, but I just don't know how long you're supposed to spend making them.
I've tried many different things, but I would say the common denominator for like the more successful products in terms of like, let's say, revenue and client feedback is always after a, let's say, 3 to 5 times posting it on socials, getting validation, as in like people say that, hey, this is something I want. The best validation is always, of course, with a like confirmation of a credit card. So let's say it's a pre-launch. So then you sell the idea, collect the money, start building the product. I'd say that's in general like the best validation or overall. And the moments that I kind of went with my gut feeling, like I think this is what the market wants, I put it out as like already a built product, and then the validation was less good. So to, especially with for those who are listening who have a social audience and posting content regularly, if you have an idea about a content or sorry a product, start promoting it a little bit more. It's like, hey guys, I'm thinking about putting together XYZ to help you solve insert problem. It's going to be this. It won't be free, but if this is something you guys are interested in, let me know. Drop a comment or send me a message. And it's kind of like a hand raiser post. So you just ask the audience, like, hey, if I put this together, would this be something? You get hell yes, or you get crickets, anything in between. And I think the beauty of the product space is you can launch many things, and often like the best things are just in the ideation phase. You start collecting people around it, and then you can go from there.
What about the people that like have a phobia of selling, for example? How do you suggest to get over that when they're like maybe they're just pre-offer and they're like not exactly sure how to like I guess frame their offer for one, and for two maybe they're just like a little bit worried about like annoying their audience, I guess. Do you have any advice for them?
Start free. That's how I started as well. Like just start putting out free templates, free resources, free lead magnets, free video tutorial, webinars, etc. And all you ask for is a email address. So it's free in a monetary sense, but of course the other person pays with their information.
Mhm.
And I think that might be a really good way to just testing out, okay, what does my audience want? And then you build people, like build like a list of people that are potentially interested to what you have to offer down the line. And the people that already signed up to something free, they are of course it's likely that they are also interested in something paid down the road. But at least it opens up the conversation loop. So for people, I would say that have like I would say it's scary to okay, let me put something out and ask people for money. I think two things are important. First, start with something for free, just test the waters. And the other thing is that, of course, you have to make sure that you solve a legit problem for your audience. How to figure out what it is? I would say the answer is by just creating content and seeing how the audience always responds to it, having conversation with people in your audience, and having an audience in general. Just is I would say I wouldn't say cheat code, but it makes launching products down the line much easier because you're just in tune with people instead of just only steering on gut feeling.
How many different offers do you have? I look at a lot of creators and they call it like an offer stack or an offer ladder. How do you look at it? I heard some people saying like front end offer, back end offer. It seems like there's all sorts of terminology for like offers and Hermosi's $100 million offers. But how do you look at offers and like how many different ones do you have and have you tried? Do you think over the time that you've been doing this?
More than I can remember. Like the infinite opportunities, sometimes you get carried away by just launching too many things at the same time. Currently, I'm focused on the high end of the market. So my main core offer is like a fully done for you service. And then, of course, we have some low ticket DIY do it yourself products on the front end that solve like a small part of the big problem. So what we do, we help people build a personal brand on LinkedIn. So we do the full content for them as a service. But of course, like let's a LinkedIn profile optimization toolkit is something that we sell on the front end to just get people to test it. So I've done many ways, and I think with like being in like the product/service space for the last 4 years, um, it's and now I would say the easiest way is just to figure out okay, what is my main core offer, which for most people is either like a done for you or a done with you service. I assume from the people listening, and then you start to spin off like products that are solving a sub problem of the big problem. Because by doing so, you even if someone only buys the front end offer, they're somewhat interested in the big the higher term or the high ticket offer. Whereas before, when I started out, I was just shooting. It was like spray and pray. So I had an email toolkit and a LinkedIn guide and something for this. It was kind of like unscattered because there was no foundation in place. So I think that's what like I would say ties into your question about like the offer stack, because only a very small percentage of the total market is of course always interested or is interested at some point in, let's say, a high ticket offer, and most people are more like testing the waters. So yes, it might be wise to be very specific with your positioning, but as you're building out a brand, you can add lower ticket or mid-size ticket offerings to get people into your orbit. That's my main goal. Like one of the goals that we have on for Legion and on our end is to get the customer to then build a relationship, continuously present or deliver value by solving their problems, and then eventually like upscale them to the higher ticket offers. And I would say the repeat customers is there an interesting one. So without going into the details, I think it's easiest what I've learned now to just start with the high ticket first because it's often the easiest to sell the more you do for people, and then start to taper it down. Okay, what is a product like a productized solution I can build for the audience that they can do it on their own, presenting me as the authority. Because if I can come up with a product that helps you solve a problem you have in your mind, you're like, okay, Jesse is capable of solving this problem, so I'm sure for the next problem that comes up, you think of me. And I think that's where the long-term like brand building slash product game definitely comes in play.
What about so your current high ticket offer? Was there any tweaks that you had to make to it for it to start working at all? Like maybe like I don't know. For example, maybe some people might be just like entrepreneurs and they go like a step niche down, like maybe like solopreneurs. And I always hear like to keep on going down, like on your like targeting a niche. Did you find anything like that when you were creating that? Like maybe some little tweak helped you to make it pop off a little more.
I think the biggest shift in the last 18 months for me has been the way how I deliver it. So 18 months ago, I was doing ghostwriting. Then early last year, I was like delivering a similar service, but then in a group coaching, like a cohort style. End of last year, like Q3, Q4, I went back into like a one-on-one approach, like a coaching, like also like a done with you approach. And now since the beginning of this year, like late January, I pivoted back into ghostwriting again, like a fully done for you content service. And I think that's where that's my edge, where like my like the skill sets, the personality, the client results, and all these things are coming together. So for me, it's kind of like full circle. And products are, of course, it's like a natural addition to it. Um, so yeah, like I said, the problem I solved during those years was always the same, like help people build a personal brand on LinkedIn to increase lead flow, to become an authority, to get podcasts, to attract perhaps employees. It's just the modality of how I brought this to my audience or to my clients was different. So that's I would say the transformation and the evolution there.
What are people looking for like ghostwriting? Do they want like a certain amount of followers over X amount of time? Or are they wanting like more influence, more comments? Like what are some of the deliverables and like what are they worried about? I mean, obviously you have a great personal brand. You have like 40,000 like subscribers on LinkedIn, which is super impressive. So that alone, I think people see that and they're like, okay, Jesse knows what he's talking about. He knows his shit or whatever. But in general, like, is there any thoughts on that?
Not everyone says with so many words, but I think the main objective for everyone that gets ghostwriting is consistent lead flow. That's one, and the other one is kind of like brand equity. It's harder to quantify, but being seen as like an authority in your space, like becoming the person that people think of or go to whenever they think like, I want to do XYZ in this industry. Okay, I should go to this person. So that's where the personal brand comes in. So it's a little bit of a like gray area, but I would say lead flow is one, and growing a profile, because with growing a profile, and I'm not just talking about followers, because there are people that have like 5,000 followers but are true experts in their niche, have consistent content, and people think of them whenever they think about the problem they're affiliated with. And then you have people that have 60K followers but no one knows what they're about because they just hop from trend to trend. So follower size is not always important, but yes, it's a quantified state of status, right? Like, because more people follow Jesse, so you make this assumption that okay, he must know something. So whenever I onboard a new client, we always talk about expectations. So I'm like, hey, this is what we're gonna see happening. We'll see an uptick in like profile views, followers, engagement, just because we have a more consistent content output. Because that's the bottom line. Like, people, especially when they're ghostwriting, like they're most often, like 95% of people that I speak to, they are money rich and time poor. So they look for a solution to get consistent content, and that is like the catalyst for the rest of the business. But I would say the number one objective they're looking for is consistent lead flow.
How do you look at content too? Because I also look at sometimes that there's like content that's like growth content that might be like around like a trend or something that's popping off, like generative AI, for example. And then there might be like carousels or something like that. But then there's content that's like for like lead content. Maybe that's more like case studies. Like, do you like purposely look at different content like that? Like this content was meant to like get leads. Like maybe it's like social proof or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, whenever I build out a content strategy for our clients, we take all these three elements in, or these three uh, flavors of content in in mind. So the first one, what you said, is like the problem solving content, which is often like the how to or how I content, sometimes presented in like a carousel, more for reach, more for profile growth. Very important, but not always a content that brings in the leads. The second layer is more the authoritative content, where we position the client or ourselves as like, hey, we are capable of solving the problem we know you have. There are some elements of education in there, but it's often like just presenting and like convincing the other person that you're capable of doing the thing that you say you do. So case studies, testimonials, client results, process breakdowns all come in there. And then last but not least, we have the more direct, like lead generating content, where it's more like these days on LinkedIn, you see it all the time. Like 2 years ago, it was less known, but now you see often these posts at the end of like, hey, send me a DM with XYZ to get this, right? It's a very salesy or a direct sales related post. And again, they serve a purpose. Like we don't use or deploy those posts to grow an audience, because in general, these posts gets lower engagement than, let's say, a how-to or how I carousel. But in the full scope of the client strategy, the content strategy, we deploy them all, because we want to have brand, we want to have profile growth, we want to have authority building, we want to have lead flow. So it's kind of, I see it as levers. Like one week, 1 month, we can do a little bit more, a little bit less, and that's why uh, looking at the like a strategy from like a holistic perspective, see like, okay, if month one, this is the emphasis, and you start to like, let's say, 35% is this, 40% is this, and 25% is this, and then you can go into detail, knowing that all angles are covered throughout a month of content.
What's your thoughts on like pictures of yourself and then also of like video of yourself as well? Because I feel like with like GPT and like generative AI, it kind of helps to see the creator as well. Like it gives it more context. And I also feel like showing like the lows too. I feel like some people only concentrate like on the highs, on like how badass they are, instead of like showing the fuck ups. So what, and there's no real story if there's no arc and relatability. So I think that that part's also important that I see as well. Any thoughts on that?
On average, posts with like personal pictures perform better. And I have a few like theories of that, because of course it's easier for people to engage with, but also from a very logical standpoint is that whenever you have an image to your post, you take up more real estate on the screen, especially on mobile, then you see only that post. So again, you just are more in front of the audience. So that's one. I do think that I read a post about this yesterday, and I completely agree with it. They called about like the selfie fatigue, because some of the big personal brands, every post is like a selfie. And yes, selfies and stuff like personal pictures, they do serve a purpose, but if it's always that, there's a disconnect. Let's say you write about the case study and the post shows a image of me, I don't know, in the gym. I don't know,
Mhm.
there is a disconnect. So
Sure.
again, it serves a purpose, but it's like a fine line to know kind of what imagery should be done here and what imagery should be done there. So what I do with my clients, I always advise them on, okay, for this post, I suggest we take this kind of image or this kind of visual. Some of my clients, they design as well, or we deliver some design for them. So then we can, I would say, circumvent the need for, okay, we always need a picture, but we can also do something uh, creative with design. Because again, then you take up more real estate on the feed. And I think these days it's all about getting the attention and keeping the attention, because that's a constant battle. Like the feed these days, it's competition. It's my post versus the other post. That's kind of the game we're playing.
How do you look at the banner? Like, what is that supposed to show up there? And some banners, I think that like some people have their picture in it. Some of them are very like branded with like good colors. Some of them have like a call to action, like distinct what they actually do. So I definitely think some people do them better than others. Yours is obviously good. Laura Costa's got a great one. Luke Matthews, Matt Barker, all these folks have like really great banners. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like you want your brand colors in there. You want some personality in there. Like it shouldn't be a personal billboard. Like look how great I am with like 9 photos of you. I think that's too much. And it should be tying into what you do. Like we currently have like the problem we solve for our audience, and then a soft call to action to our website. That's kind of it, like kind of simple. um, I know some great banners that have more of like a authority flex, so to call it, as in like featured on X, or the like seen on XYZ, right? So again, it is real estate. So the moment someone comes, like someone cold comes to your profile, especially on mobile, the banner takes a third of the screen. So a picture shows more than words, right? So you want to, in one impression, what you're about and how you can help your audience. And that kind of invites them to read the rest.
What if you don't have social proof? What do you recommend? Because obviously social proof's really big when you're trying to get like high ticket one-on-ones. I've seen actually, I met someone that monetized their LinkedIn with only 1,000 followers, but they were really smart because they were like reaching outbound for like copywriting and actually giving like a couple pieces of copy like on something and like rewriting it in a couple different voices. So they probably spent like an hour on each thing. So they did like the reverse of most people with like the pitch slap thing and just go as fast as they can. They did like completely the reverse. They spent time and did it, and that seemed to like work for them. But any thoughts on that? Like how to like maybe work for free, or like what's your thoughts on like getting reviews when you don't have any?
Whenever you don't have case studies or social proof, two things actually. The first one is indeed to show the other person you're capable of doing the work. How you do that by presenting them samples, a teaser, all kinds of stuff. People kind of skimp on the work for free, but you're not working for free. You're working for a testimonial, working for a client result connection. You're working for a potential referral partner. All these things. It's just not direct monetary gain, but that's something that people just sometimes forget. And especially people that are writers or creatives, you are your own case study, right? You have to not fake it till you make it, but whenever you're a great writer, like show that through your own content. Whenever you're a great designer, show that through your own creatives and all these things. When you're a great video editor, easier to say, show that through editing your video. Like the internet is free. Like you don't need permission. Let's say I'm a video editor and I see some like a big creator. I can just go to the YouTube, get their video, edit it, and send it to them. And then they're like, hey, okay, they have a free edit, and I could do that for like say 5 to 10 creators. Sure, there's work. I pay my not having social proof down with time. Like I spend time to get these things done, and even if this person, the other, like let's say 10 creators don't reply or they don't sign with you, at least you now have a portfolio of work. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you don't need permission to get started. And I think people get kind of like they choke on, oh, I don't have social proof. No one has when they start out.
Mm.
Everyone has to just get started at some point. And
Yeah,
they often say like getting the first client is the hardest. To a certain degree, I would agree with that. But yeah, especially for the creators listening to this, like you are your own case study and tap into there, because you're if you started, you're already off zero. So leverage that.
I agree with that. I think that if you solve whatever problem it is that you're doing for yourself, then you solve it for other people. That's kind of the way to go. But I do feel like sometimes people get caught up like in little steps and then like their thoughts get in the way of their growth or whatever. But I got like one last question for you. So like this is a way I'm kind of looking at like my monetization strategy as of now. Well, at the moment I'm working full time like as a marketing director, so I only have so much time on my hands after work. But the way I look at it is like high ticket one-on-one coaching since I'm helping people launch podcasts. And then I'm going to do like a cohort with my buddy and we're going to do kind of like use this on like Heartbeat and then have like master classes. We'd love to have you on there, like for like, you know, you come in there and you talk about what you do and your role and how that relates to podcasting, that type of thing, and record all these things and kind of teach people how to like get in front of the camera or like get in front of like audio and all this kind of stuff. But then I also look at like a newsletter, kind of like the newsletter kind of supporting everything. Kind of you see like Justin Welsh and all these guys, they all have like in Dan Co, they all have like a newsletter to sort of, I think it's like trust. It's like you're occupying more space in these people's brains. And I think a lot of the times that becomes like a YouTube video, but they all kind of like intermingle with each other, I guess. And then like you kind of have like these product launches, and that's kind of like the way I look at the system. But I'm just curious, like a broad over macro view for you. How do you look at your system, and like how do you? I'm sure it's changing all the time, but like how do you look at the whole or overarching thing?
I wouldn't say it's changing, but I like to name it as like it's evolving. Like there is this risk, of course, of like tying too much to one platform. So it's a very similar like transition that I went through last year, as in like adding email more prominent to my ecosystem. And like I said earlier in our chat, like our goal for the business is to get the customer into our orbit, because then we know we can provide value and get them results and then move them closer to either do it themselves or work with us. And I
Mm-hmm.
do think that email is one of the best, if not the best, like ways of like channels to increase your stickiness. In most cases, you need a social platform above that. for us, it's LinkedIn. The second platform that we're adding is YouTube. Um,
Hmm.
and then, but it all feeds into email. So it's kind of like this ecosystem, and that's what you refer to with the creators that you mentioned. But yeah, it's like this is the mistake I made early on. Is like you want to do all the channels at the same time, but that's just overwhelm. So the advice to the audience would be just start with a social platform, and then what we said earlier, like the free product might be a great way to bridge people from a social platform into an email list, and then you can build up there. So then you have an email list with people, and you send a weekly email, which is just a repurposing of your social content. And by doing so, you can keep things very lean, but still grow two channels at the same time because they're coming from the same source.
What lead magnets have you had success with? And then you could just close this out with like where to find you on LinkedIn and any products that you want to send people to that you're excited about.
I would say the unsexy answer to the products that have been successful is often like the toolkits, or sorry, the templates, or kind of like the cheat sheets.
Mhm.
So tried many different things, but I would say that the templates where I just break down posts that made us a lot of money and our clients also a lot of money, those are often very successful. But again, it's
Makes
just
sense.
we did it first, we got results, and then we package it in such a way so it's validated by the market already, and then it's easier to push into the market instead of, oh, I think this is great, push it out, because we live in an age where like it's so easy to get a validation, right? Like you can literally go to LinkedIn or Twitter right now, put out like a tweet or a post like, hey, I'm thinking about doing XYZ, it would be blah blah blah, very short and simple. Drop a like or drop a thumbs up if you're interested in hearing more. Boom. And I think people are afraid of exposing themselves because, oh, what if no one replies, or what if no one sees it?
I feel
Fine, then
that.
you get another shot. Well, no one sees it, that's perfect. So
I get
again, I
that.
think the TLDR is that, okay, don't be afraid to fail in public, because only the people that hate on you are the people that are often, I would say, also in this mingle of, I want to do this, but what if? Like the people from above, like, don't hate on that. So I think that's the answer there. And then your final question to wrap it up, where people can find me. Like I said, my name is Jessie Van Breugel on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter. Follow the purple dot, and then you will see my beautiful face over there.
Mm.
If people want to know more about what we do for our clients, specifically on LinkedIn, they can go to authority-figures.com. There's a free masterclass, there are free trainings up there, and that's also the way for them to get in contact with me. But I would say for now, the LinkedIn and YouTube are the main channels where we post content every single day.
Yeah, your sales content is super hot, man. Like the amount of like how to get leads and your carousels, they're very well done. I really enjoy your content.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time.